If equation 1 does not hold, then we cannot talk about a physical quantity A having a particular value. This is the case, for example, with the coordinate of the particle. Your coordinate operator is q operating on psi will be some x into psi, which is not actually equal to A into psi. So, if you look at probability, probability is uniform. Okay, that means every position is equally probable. Okay, so that means what? You cannot predict the position, but position can be anything, and you measure your position, a definite value of the coordinate for a particle in the state given by that position momentum eigenstate is thus not predictable, but may be obtained only by a direct measurement. Such a measurement, however, disturbs the particle and thus alters its state. After the coordinate is determined, the particle will no longer be in the state given by equation 2. The usual conclusion from this quantum mechanics is that when the momentum of a particle is known, its coordinate has no physical reality. Okay, this is an official, the usual conclusion is basically the official conclusion. Okay. Or if you write this statement in quantum mechanics exam, you will get marks. That's what it means. More generally, it is shown in quantum mechanics that if the operators corresponding to physical quantities, say A and B, do not commute, that is, if AB is not equal to BA, then the precise knowledge of one of them precludes such a knowledge of the other. Furthermore, any attempt to determine the later experimentally will alter the state of the system in such a way as to destroy the knowledge of the first. This is what a general statement that you can make about the structure of quantum mechanics. Okay, so from this it follows that quantum mechanical description of reality given by the wave function is not complete, or when the operators corresponding to two physical quantities do not commute, the two quantities cannot have simultaneous realities. Now, please look at these two statements. If there is a reality for the non-commuting operators, then that reality is not being able to borne out by the wave function, and hence we have to say the description of reality given by the wave function is not complete. If the description of the wave function is complete, then you can say that there exists no simultaneous reality for non-commuting operators. Okay. So this statement is, these two statements have this kind of a logical value. For if both of them had simultaneous reality and thus definite values, these values would enter into the complete description according to the condition of completeness. If then the wave function provides such a complete description of reality, it would contain these values. These would then be predictable. This not being the case, we are left with the alternative state. Now, in quantum mechanics, it is usually assumed that the wave function does contain a complete description of physical reality of the system in the state to which it corresponds. At first sight, this assumption is entirely reasonable, for the information obtainable from a wave function seems to correspond exactly to what can be measured without altering the state of the system. We shall show, however, that this assumption, together with the criterion of reality given above, leads to a contradiction. So this is where I think you have to, I think we have talked about this in the last class, but please pay more attention from this point onwards, because only so far what was discussed in this paper is about the structure of quantum mechanics. Now only the new idea which they are trying to say, so that it is challenging to quantum mechanics to claim that it is a complete description there. So for this purpose, let us suppose that we have two systems, 1 and 2. which we permit to interact from time t equal to 0 to t equal to capital T. So some 0 time to some capital T time, these two systems are interacting with each other. After which time, that means after capital T, we suppose that there is no longer any interaction between the two parts. Okay, so there is no interaction between them after capital T. Now we will suppose further that the states of the two systems before t equal to 0 were known. We can then calculate with the help of Schrodinger equation the state of the combined system 1 plus 2 at any subsequent time. In particular, for any time t greater than capital T. Now, please understand, this is all within the structure of quantum mechanics. Schrodinger equation will will calculate the wave function at any time t given the wave function at time t equal to 0. What else you should know? You should know, of course, the Hamiltonian. Okay, so that means you should know what kind of interaction these two systems have between time t equal to 0 to capital T. And once you know this interaction, and once you know the initial state, that the state of combined system 1 plus 2 at any subsequent time can be calculated. Let us designate this corresponding wave function by capital psi. We cannot, however, calculate the state in which either one of the two systems is left after the interaction. So, in quantum mechanics, you ask a question, can I solve Schrodinger equation for system 1 or system 2? The answer is no. You cannot solve system 1 without considering system 2 if some time in the past they both have certain interaction. You have to consider only a combined system. Okay, so this is also a part of the structure of quantum mechanics, and this is what led to the initial understanding that the wave function is so wave function describes what kind of a wave. When people ask this question, there was no clear answer, because wave function is not a function of position, a function in the position time variables. Okay, but it is a function in configuration space. That means if more than one particle are there, the wave function is a function of all the positions of all the particles, and that is called configuration space. So wave function is a mathematical object in configuration space. And what kind of wave can we talk about in configuration space? Okay, and these kind of questions have led Max Born to come up with this idea of probability wave. There is something called probability wave, where the wave function can be called as probability amplitude. Okay, so we cannot, however, calculate the state in which either one of the two systems is left after the interaction. This, according to quantum mechanics, can be done only with the help of further measurements. Okay, by the process process known as reduction of the wave packet. So let us consider the essentials of this process. Okay, so I think we talked about this. So let us say that A1, A2, A3 be the eigenvalues of some physical quantity A pertaining to system 1, and corresponding eigenfunctions are given by U1, U2, U3. X1 is the variables of the system 1. Then the two composite wave function capital psi, which is a function of x1 comma x2, can be expanded in terms of the eigenfunctions of capital A. Now, when you expand, the coefficients of expansion will depend on the variables of the second system. Okay, so this is mathematically true, because because if x2 changes, then the coefficients will change, which essentially means that the coefficients are functions of x2. So where x2 stands for the variables used to describe the second system. Here, psi n of x2 are to be regarded merely as the coefficients of expansion of capital Psi in a series of orthogonal functions u1, u1, u2, u3, etc. Okay, so there is this is a standard whatever your quantum mechanics structure allows for this. Suppose now that the quantity A is measured and it is found to be found that it has the value ak. It is then concluded, because quantum mechanics tell you find the value ak, then the wave function will collapse. It is then concluded that after the measurement, the first system is left in the state given by the wave function uk of x1, and that the second system is in the state given by the wave function psi k of x2. Now, this is the process of reduction of the wave packet, which quantum mechanics is based on. The wave packet given by the infinite series 7, that is sum over n psi n un, is reduced to a single term. And there are infinitely many terms in that, but now there will be only one single term after the measurement is done and result is recorded. Yeah.
When it is being said when it is at the first system, it is clear to the state A of x, and the second system later state psi of x. Then it means that psi x2 is eigenfunction of the second in the basis.
I can't hear you properly. Your voice is.
It is being.
Your voice has holes.
That the first function, first when it is measured, we are getting state that is k of x2. The second system is left in psi of x2. That means psi of x2 could be eigenfunction of the second system.
I somehow heard your so there is a gap in your voice with a periodicity of about 5 seconds. Every 5 seconds there is a gap.
Okay,
so I
right.
try to interpolate between whatever I could hear. So you're asking if un of x1 are the eigenstates of A. So you're asking a question, whose eigenstates are this psi n of x2? Is that the question? Or is there an operator to whom we can call this psi n of x2 or eigenstates? Is that the question?
Yes, sir. Psi k of x would be the function. The second system.
So psi n of x2 will be the wave function of the system 2.
Sir.
That is clear, right? Now you're asking whose eigenfunction is it? By the way, are others also listening him in a piecewise continuous manner, or am I only listening to him like that?
No, sir, his voice is breaking. Continuous.
Breaking, right? Yeah. So I think, okay, so let's assume that we have understood what he's asking. So he's asking if you have this, so if you have this un of x1, these are eigenstates of A. And when we expand this, these psi n of x2 are now merely only coefficients of expansion. Now, if we say that these are eigenfunctions of system 2, Now, are they also eigenstates of A? That is probably the first doubt. And the answer for that is not necessary. And second question is there an operator whose eigenstates are this psi n of x2? Now, it is possible to construct an operator such that these psi n of x2 are the eigenstates of that operator, because it is always possible to construct an operator if you know all the eigenstates. Okay, so there will be some operator for whom these are the eigenstates. Okay, but that is not important for the argument of this paper. But if your question is that is there an operator to whom we can call these states as eigenstates, the answer is yes. We can define an operator. Okay, so the point is here that the wave packet reduction or collapse of the wave function will make the wave function of system 1 as uk of x1 and system 2 as psi k of x2 if you have done the measurement of quantity A and then obtained the value as AK. So this is very important. So please keep this in mind. Now, the set of functions un of x1 is determined by the choice of the physical quantity A. Now, let's imagine that instead of A, we choose B, some other property, which has eigenvalues b1, b2, b3, and the eigenfunctions v1 of x1, v2 of x2, v3 of x. V1 of x1, v2 of x1, v3 of x1. This is also for the system 1 only. So what we should have obtained instead of equation 7, now we are going to expand it in v1, v2, v3, etc. Then what we will have? We will have some other coefficients of expansion. So it will be basically some other set of functions. So we could write this as s equal to 1 to infinity phi s of x2 multiplied by vs of x1. Okay, and where phi s are the new coefficients. Of course, here this basis is different. Now, if now the quantity B is measured and is found to have value Br, we conclude that after the measurement, the first system is left in the state given by Vr of x1 and the second system is left in the state given by phi r of x2. Okay. Now, please understand this one carefully. We see therefore that as a consequence of two different measurements performed upon the first system, the second system may be left in states with two different wave functions. On the other hand, since at the time of measurement the two systems no longer interact, no real change can take place in the second system in consequence of anything that may be done to the first system. This is, of course, merely a statement of what is meant by the absence of an interaction between the two systems. Thus, it is possible to assign two different wave functions, in our example, psi k and phi r, to the same reality, the second system after the interaction with the first. So, for example, let us say that the wave function completely describes the reality. Okay. And in this particular case, that wave function itself is not unique. We are able to assign two different wave functions for the same reality. So the point here is that there is a very important assumption here, and that assumption is what is stated here. Since at the time of measurement the two systems no longer interact, no real change can take place in the second system in consequence of anything that may be done to the first system. This is, of course, merely a statement of what is meant by the absence of any interaction between the two systems. Okay, so this particular statement is very important, and this statement is basically has been debated and is also getting debated even today, which fueled the research of thousands of people for the next 90 years or so. Okay, so now let us.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Sir, Abhijit has asked something in the chat box.
Oh,
Sir, he is saying that how can we say that psi k of x2 is always is always associated with uk of x1, and he is saying that it can also be associated with psi k plus 1 of x2. I mean, uk of x1 can be associated with psi k plus 1 of x2.
psi k plus 1 of x2. But that is just a label, isn't it? What is the. That is just a label, right? So, see the. So let me just. Give me a minute. Okay. So can you see? Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So suppose first we will talk about standard quantum mechanics that we know. We have a system, and let's say the system is in a state psi, and then we have an observable. So we call this observable as A, and this A is an operator. And then you have a un of x is equal to an into un of x. Okay, so these un of x are what you call as eigenstates of A, correct? Or eigen functions of A. Now we can write, okay, so this psi of x can be written as sum over n from Cn into un of x. Agree? I'm not talking about Einstein's paper. This is a standard textbook quantum mechanics that we know.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now, what is Cn? Cn is a complex number here. Okay, Cn is any complex number. Now, what you can say about Cn mod square will give you what? Probability of getting An as result when A is measured. Is that fine? So for every eigenfunction of A, there is a coefficient. For some eigenfunctions, it may be 0 also, but there is a coefficient. And if you have a state like this, then result of A cannot be predicted. When I say predicted, with certainty, so cannot be predicted with unit probability. Okay, so we use this language in this case. It's called A is not sharp, but A is dispersed. Okay, A is dispersed. Because if you imagine that you have got several particles, each one of that is in psi of x, psi of x, psi of x, like this, and then you send this to some kind of a meter, okay, then you will see that when first particle comes, you may have A1, second particle comes, you may have A25, third particle comes, you may have A3, fourth particle comes, you may have A37, like that. Different values of A's will appear, and they appear largely randomly, and that is why this word dispersed is used. And so if you ask a question, what is A? What is this property A in psi, in the state psi of x? So you ask that question. The only meaningful quantity that you can talk about when there is a dispersion is that there is an average value of A, which is what we call as expectation value, and that is given by sum over n modulus of Cn square into A. So this is your expectation value, and this expectation value you can also obtain by taking your psi of x into A operating on psi of x and take an inner product of these two, then you will get this. Okay, from here to here you can show by substituting this. So this is the standard quantum mechanics. Okay, so now let us ask what happens if so let us try to ask the following question. Now I have first system and second system. I have two systems, and these two systems were interacting at some particular time. So there is only a state which is a state of x1 comma x2. Okay. Now given psi of x1 comma x2 at time t equal to 0. Now Schrodinger equation gives you psi of x1 comma x2 t, and this will be given for all t. Okay, so this will be given for all t. This is what Schrodinger equation can do. Okay. Now, the question that we are asking is that so I have system 1 here, and let's assume system 2 is not very close to us. Einstein's paper did not say it. I am trying to read something in between the lines. So they have interacted, and then after that they stopped interacting. So I have system 1 here and system 2 here. Now what I can say is that, okay, now quantum mechanics tells me this combined state, but I can do something on this state alone. Okay, because the other system is not very close to me, it has gone far away. Okay, so let us say I do something on this. Okay, so do something on this. Okay, so let us say you measure A on 1. So you do something on this. This is something I can do because I have one system here. I can do a measurement on that system. Now the question is, how do I describe this in quantum mechanics? Okay, like what I discussed here. In this case, there is no problem. I have this state psi. Okay, so this state psi is basically psi of x here, and then I want to make a measurement of A. Then I know A has its eigenstates and its eigenvalues. Then I expand this in eigenfunctions of A. Then I know that these are the probabilities of getting these results. And once I get the result, then I know what is the wave. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I lost internet. So I do not know. You have heard up to what? So what I'm trying to say is that you are trying to measure A on the first system, but how do we describe this in quantum mechanics? This is the question that we are asking. Now let's say that what we know is that because you are measuring A, so you know A1, A2, A3, these are the eigenvalues of A, and U1 of X, U2 of X, U2 of X, U3 of X. These are the eigenfunctions of it. So this information is there for us. Okay, but I have to write this is x1, x2, x3 because I am trying to x1, x1, x1 because I am trying to measure A of the first system only. Now I cannot say that independent of this second system, I can expand it because quantum mechanics does not allow expansion of or the evaluation of the first equation, single systems wave function. So because of that, I have to somehow keep in mind where the second system is or what are the variables of the second system. So how do I expand it? I expand it like this. So let's say you have psi of x1 comma x2 has to be now expanded using sum over n. Of course, you have to expand in terms of un of x1, but then the coefficients of expansion will also depend on x. Okay, so this is very easy to understand mathematically. So it is something like this. Suppose let's say I have a function which is a function of f of x comma y. But then let's say that I have an equation that partial derivative of f with respect to x is equal to let's say x. Now suppose if I have to integrate this, then I can say that my f of x comma y will be equal to x square by 2. Of course, that is the integration of this x with respect to integral dx. But then the integration constant, which we write it always, can depend on y. Why it can depend on y? Because this is only a partial derivative. No, when I take partial derivative of this anyway does not contain x, so it will go to 0. So your constant of integration can contain the other variable whenever you are trying to integrate a partial derivative like this. In the same way, this is a function of two variables, and you are trying to expand it in an orthogonal set of functions of single variable. That means the coefficients of expansion should have a dependence on the other variable. And another way to understand it is something like this. Suppose you fix your fix x2. Okay, so let's say x2 to be equal to some x2 star. Then what happens? Your psi of x1 comma x2 star. Okay, so this is only a function of x1, correct? So then if you want to expand it like this is like our this x2 star is like just a parameter, will be equal to sum over n. We will have some cn into un of x x1. These are constants. Okay. Now let's imagine that now let's say fix another value. Fix another value. X2 is equal to let's say x2 tilde, some other value. Then what happens? Your psi of x1 comma x2 tilde will be equal to sum over n. Of course, u1 of x is same, but will the coefficients will be same Cn? No, because if you take a different value, then the coefficients will not be same as Cn, right? So you will have some other some Cn tilde or something. So if you fix your x2 as different values, the coefficients will be different, which is what is the statement of saying that this psi n depends on x2. Okay, so this is the way in which you can write down this wave function, this expansion. Now, so this is where you have to understand quantum mechanics clearly. Now, quantum mechanics tells you that collapse of the wave function, etc., is for the wave function which is governed by the Schrodinger, which is evolved by the Schrodinger equation. Okay, so there are only two types of evolutions. One is a Schrodinger equation evolution. So if psi of x1 comma x2, okay, evolves as per Schrodinger equation, and you do measurement on a combined system or a single system, the collapse has to happen for this wave function. We don't even know what is the wave function of the first system or second system. Okay, so this collapses on measurement. Of A on system 1. Even if you say that you are making a measurement on A, and this is what collapses, and that is what the quantum mechanics is, the structure of quantum mechanics is used. So you measure A, and then get AK, then psi of x1 comma x2 collapses to psi k of x1, psi k of x2 to uk of x. Okay, then what we can say from here is, after this measurement, wave function which gives a complete description of reality, wave function which gives a complete description of reality as per quantum mechanics of second system 2 is psi k of x. Okay, so this is the conclusion. This is the conclusion. But remember that we are not disturbing. We are not disturbing Q. at all. And since 1 and 2 are not interacting, any measurement on 1 should have no bearing on okay. So as you can see, Einstein says, that's what I told you, they are not interacting. That's what it means. If they are not interacting, then they should not have any bearing on this. Okay. So then comes the next thing is that, okay, all this that I have described is the case if I choose to measure A. Okay. On the other hand, if we choose to measure B, on the first system, then the story we have to repeat. So then you have B1, B2, B3, these are the eigenfunctions, and some V1 of x1, V2 of x1, V3 of x1, these are the eigenfunctions, and then your psi of x1 comma x2 can now be written as sum over some s, whatever you call, some phi s of x2 into Vs of x1. Okay, and then you measure B and get result from Br. Okay. Then psi of x1 comma x2 collapses to phi r of x2 into Vr of x1. Okay. Now what happens? Now the conclusion is that wave function which gives complete description of reality as per quantum mechanics. Let me not write that here again. So wave function of 2 is phi r of x. Okay. Now the point is very simple. So what we do at 1, okay, this is our business. 2 should not bother about this. What we do at 1, and 2 will not even know what we are doing, whether we are measuring A or measuring B. Okay, so what we do at 1 should not affect the reality of what we do at 1 should not affect the reality of 2. Why? Because they are not interacting now. Should not affect the reality of 2. Now, if reality is there, And even if we agree that the reality is being described by the wave function, we have two different wave functions corresponding to this reality, depending on whether I am choosing to measure A or B here. That means the wave function itself is depends on what I am doing here. Okay, so this is what Einstein later remarked it as a spooky action at a distance, because this 1 and 2 can be very far away from each other. So one doesn't have to really have a theory which does this kind of strange things. Okay, so that's the idea. Okay, so I hope this has made some clarification. Let me go back to this. Yeah. So now this particular thing we can represent it in terms of a concrete example. Earlier we were talking a very general A and B. Now it may happen that the two wave functions psi k and phi r are eigenfunctions of two non-commuting operators corresponding to some physical quantities like P and Q respectively. Now, so you understand what they are trying to, what Einstein is trying to hint at. Now I am able to assign two different wave functions to system 2 without doing anything to system 2. Now these two different wave functions may be such that one is an eigenfunction of momentum, in which case momentum has a reality, and the other may be an eigenfunction of position, in which position also has a reality. What does that mean? That means there is a simultaneous reality to position and momentum, whereas position and momentum are non-commuting operators, and hence such a simultaneous reality is not there. If you are able to show simultaneous reality, according to wave function, that such a simultaneous reality should not be there, the description of the wave function is not complete. So this is the argument. That is, this may actually be the case, can best be shown by an example. Let's suppose that the two systems, let us suppose that the two systems are two particles, and that the wave function is given by this. Wave function is given by sum of e to the power e to the power 2 pi I by h. Basically, this is I by h cross into x1 minus x2 plus x0 into p dt. Okay. So now, if you look at this wave function, carefully look at this wave function. So if you take one particular, only one particular value of p, it is a momentum eigenfunction. So now this is an integration of all the p's from minus infinity to plus infinity. That means this wave function has a fixed value of position for both x1 and x2. Okay, so that is what this wave function is, where x naught is some constant. So let A be the momentum of the first particle. Then, as we have seen in equation 4, So first particle, let's say we are trying to measure the momentum value. Okay, so that means from that wave function you can recognize that this up of x1 is e power 2 pi I by h into px1. That is that x1 part alone. So you can see that 2 pi by x1 into p. So that if I write separately, that I can write it as a momentum eigenfunction. Okay, so that is a momentum corresponding to the eigenvalue p. Since we have here the case of a continuous spectrum, equation 7, that is earlier we had written in terms of summation, but now you have to write it as a integration. So the remaining part we are going to call it as psi p of x2, where psi p of x2 is given by this remaining part of that integrand. So this psi p, however, is the eigenfunction of the operator p, which is equal to dou by dou xt, because dou by dou x2, when you take this thing, you will get a momentum which is equal to minus p. Okay, so suppose you measure momentum of the first particle and then you get a value plus p, then we can say that the second particle has got a momentum minus p. That is something that we can say without doing any measurement on the second particle. On the other hand, if b is the coordinate of the first particle, suppose instead of measuring the position momentum, we are, let's say, measuring the coordinate of the first particle, then corresponding to what is the eigenfunction of particle, it's a Dirac delta function. So Vx of x1 will be simply delta of x1 minus x. X is the value of the coordinate. Okay, where delta of x1 minus x is a well-known Dirac delta function. Okay, now what happens? Your psi of x1, x2 now can be written as phi x of x2 into Vx of x1. Okay, so what is phi x of x2? Phi x of x2 is basically wherever you have x1, you have to put x, so that when you do a delta function integration, wherever x is there, you get x1. So that also will be a position eigenfunction. That also will be a position eigenfunction. That means if you are measuring x1, if you are measuring your position as thus phi x, however, is an eigenfunction of the operator q. Okay, corresponding to the eigenvalue x plus x naught. So if you measure x as the position of the first particle, x plus x naught will be the position of the second particle. Okay, second particle. But we know that this position and momentum do not commute. Q minus qp is h bar by 2. Okay, so we have shown that it is in general possible for psi k and phi r to be eigenfunctions of two non-commuting operators corresponding to physical quantities. Okay. Returning now to the general case contemplated in equation 7 and 8, basically they are the ones with summations. We assume that psi k and phi r are indeed eigenfunctions of some non-commuting operators p and q corresponding to the eigenvalues p, k and q r respectively. Thus, by measuring either a or b, we are in a position to predict with certainty the position to predict a measuring. Thus, by measuring either A or B, we are in a position to predict with certainty and without in any way disturbing the second system, either the value of the quantity P or the value of the quantity Q. In accordance with our criterion of reality, in the first case, we must consider the quantity P as being an element of reality. In the second case, the quantity Q is an element of reality, but as we have seen, both wave functions belong to the same reality. So previously we provided that either the quantum mechanical description of reality given by the wave function is not complete, or when the operators corresponding to two physical quantities do not commute, the two quantities cannot have simultaneous reality. Now, starting then with the assumption that the wave function does give a complete description of the physical reality, we arrived at the conclusion that two physical quantities with non-commuting operators can have simultaneous reality. Thus, negation of one leads to the negation of the only other alternative two. So we are thus forced to conclude that the quantum mechanical description of physical reality given by the wave function is not complete. One could object to this conclusion on the grounds that our criterion of reality is not sufficiently restrictive. Indeed, one would not arrive at our conclusion if one insisted that two or more physical quantities can be regarded as simultaneous elements of reality only when they can be simultaneously measured or predicted. On this point of view, since either one of or the other, but not both simultaneously, of the quantities P and Q can be predicted, they are not simultaneously real. This makes the reality of P and Q depend upon the process of measurement carried out on the first system, which does not disturb the second system in any way. No reasonable definition of reality could be expected to uh, prove this one, permit this one. Okay. While we have thus shown that the wave function does not provide a complete description of the physical reality, we left open the question of whether or not such a description exists. We believe, however, that such a theory is possible. Okay, so this is the total paper. So I have not tried to put any of my words in this paper. I have actually tried to present the paper verbatim. Whatever is the paper, I just copied the content of the paper onto this file, and I have read the paper along with you. So there is nothing that I have added in this. So because it is not, I think if I add something to this, I will only do injustice to this paper. So I have tried to present the paper exactly the way it is written. Okay, so questions. Questions, comments. I understand, I don't understand.
So I have a small confusion, like last part, and was saying that the two systems we can in the beginning it was being said that we cannot predict with certainty, but at last we were saying like we can with certainty, right?
Arya, now you are audible. Can you repeat the question?
Okay, sir, like in the to the last we were saying that these two systems, even though they are not like in like after interaction, they it can be like we can predict with certainty, right? Like how the system will be, like that P and Q. Like I'm having some confusion in that part, the last part.
Just 1 minute. So should I present that last part?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so now you tell me which part. Very last, or
So towards the last. Yeah, here.
okay.
Like here we are saying that thus by measuring either A or B, we are in a position to predict with certainty.
Hmm.
Like before we were saying, right, like we cannot predict with certainty.
Yeah, that is quantum mechanics.
Okay.
Now
So
they are
this,
presenting a case where you are able to predict with certainty.
okay.
That is the whole point, no? You are able to predict with certainty without in any way disturbing. So that is their criteria of reality, right?
Yeah.
So they are able to now say that there is a simultaneous reality corresponding to P and Q.
So that means in this case they are not using quantum mechanics.
No, we are using quantum mechanics. See, they are using quantum mechanics. Okay, so they are using quantum mechanics, and they are able to show that if you construct a two particle system like this, I am able to predict both position and momentum with certainty of a system without disturbing that system.
Okay.
So
Okay. Okay.
if you understand this argument, this is what their final conclusion is.
Yes, sir. Now it's better.
But according to quantum mechanics, that is not possible, and that means quantum mechanics is not the final story.
Okay.
That is the conclusion.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Any other question?
Hello.
Hmm? Yes.
Sir, here we are measuring on the first system and we are observing in the second system. That simultaneously we are obtaining it.
We are only measuring the first system. We are not observing the second system. We are only measuring the first system. Our measurement on the first system plus rules of quantum mechanics will allow us to know the second system. Is that clear?
It's like measuring on first system is giving information about the second system, and in that second system, the simultaneous is happening.
Correct.
Sir, then another doubt, it's like measured that operator A and B on the system, and then we obtain our wave function collapsed to one psi of x, psi of k and phi of s, right, sir?
Correct.
Are they two representing the same reality?
Yeah. So if you are not disturbing that system, okay. So what quantum mechanics tells you? You tell me the wave function that tells the reality of the system. Our wave function describes the reality of the system. Or whatever wave function describes is the reality of the system. Okay, which statement you think is quantum mechanics telling you?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I have a doubt with that. Actually, we have expanded the psi of x1 and x2 as a linear combination, right?
Correct.
But I have a doubt, sir. That the psi k of x, we are saying that's the wave function of the second system, psi k of x2, right?
Correct.
It can be any function that only represents the relationship between the coefficients and the second system, or how the coefficients are related with the second system, right?
Correct.
How can we say that it's the original wave function of the system?
No, the point what I'm trying to say is that you yourself said that whatever is that coefficient will have its dependence on the variables of the second system. That much you have no objection, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now you have a two-particle wave function, and you are carving out the dependence on the first variable. So what remains has to be the wave function of the second system, no?
I think it's not needed, sir. I'm not sure. Hello?
Yeah. Go ahead. Why you think it's not needed?
Sir, actually, the coefficient represents the probability, right, sir?
Correct.
So how can we say that that should be the exact wave function of the second system? That can be only represents the how can I say?
No, actually, the wave function is the probability amplitude, and modulus square of the wave function is the probability. Correct.
Yes, sir.
So if you say that your un of x is the un of x1 is the wave function of the first system, and psi n of x2 is the wave, let's say, is the coefficient of second system, modulus of psi n of x2 the square. Okay, that will be the probability of finding the first system's
The state psi
A
un of
at
x.
un of x, right?
Yes, sir.
So that way, psi n of x, if you take, it should be probability amplitude, because square root of probability
Yes.
of the second system. So it is consistent with that kind of a probability interpretation.
Sir, that represents the probability of the first system, right? So
Correct.
how can we say that that is related also with the second system?
So that
Because it can be any function which connects the coefficient with the second system, right, sir?
correct. So
So-
because of that connection, the probability of any particular value for a property A is supported by the wave function of the second system. That dependence is there. It's not, that is the whole reason why we are saying that the structure of quantum mechanics in terms of Schrodinger equation cannot deal with each system separately. It can only deal with a combined system. I'm spending a little more time here because in your standard quantum mechanics course, you don't talk about the evolution of a combined system at all. Okay, I don't know, in maybe helium atom problem you have looked at, but there also you don't do time dependent evaluation of the wave function, correct? So you don't really consider this at all. But this is what quantum mechanics does. Quantum mechanics will always evolve only a composite state. It cannot tell anything about the evolution of, I mean, Schrodinger equation cannot tell anything about the evolution of the individual system state. And if you want to get some knowledge about the individual states, that can be done only by doing some measurements. So this paper is describing how that measurements should be described using standard quantum mechanics. Since Schrodinger equation evolves only composite state, only composite states will collapse. And after collapse only, you will know what is the state of your subsystem.
Okay, sir.
I think if you still are getting doubt, so you should look at this example. Whatever example that these people are giving here. So you look at this equation 9. Okay, what do you understand by this wave function psi of x1 comma x2? This wave function is basically a wave function. So if you let me just okay. I do not know if you take 1/2 pi of integral minus infinity to infinity e to the power I x minus some x naught into some k into dk. This is equal to Dirac delta function of x minus x. Okay, I hope you know this. If you don't know, please take this as a definition. You can prove this easily. So what you have to do is you take Fourier transform of delta of x minus x. Okay, and then take inverse Fourier transform. Then you will get this expression, which is equal to this. So if you look at this is just a definition. Now the wave function that is taken is psi of x1 comma x2 is given as integral minus infinity to infinity e to the power I 2 pi by h cross by h into x1 minus x2 plus x naught into p d. This is the wave function that is taken. Now, if I use this one, then I can say that there will be some factors, but let's not worry about the factors. This is proportional to delta of x1 minus x2 plus x naught. What does that mean? That means so this implies that your x1 or you can say that your x2 has to be equal to x1 plus alpha. Is this a correlation in position or not? Okay, suppose you measure, this is a two-particle wave function. Okay, this is a two-particle wave function. Okay, so suppose you measure q on 1. Okay, and let's say get x1 as the result. Okay, because of this two-particle wave function, we know that x2 is equal to x1 plus alpha. x2 is equal to x1 plus alpha. So sorry, x1 plus whatever x naught. X naught is a constant. Okay, so it is some constant. So that means it is just a shifted. Okay, if you measure x1, that means you know x2. We don't have to do anything. So not measured here. Not measured. Now you want to put this in that language of what? So you want to put this in that language. Then what you are going to do is that your psi of x1 comma x2, you want to write it as integral minus infinity plus infinity dp, and then you have some psi p of x2 into up of x1. Okay, so what is your up of x1? up of x1 is equal to e to the power I 2 pi by h into x1p. And what is psi p of x2? Psi p of x2 is equal to e to the power I2 pi minus I2 pi by h into x2 minus x1. Okay. So now you measure. Measure p on 1. Okay, this wave function is does not have 1p, but suppose you measure p on 1 and get some p prime as result. Okay, you get p prime as result, then what happens? This psi of x1 x2, psi of x1 comma x2 collapses to what? Collapses to psi p prime of x2 into up prime of x1. Okay. Now what is psi p prime of x2? Psi p prime of x2 is, so this implies we know the momentum of 2 is minus p prime. So you see, we know momentum of this is minus p prime, position of this is x1 plus x0, but we have not done any measurement there. We have not done any measurement there. And I think you should also make a note of what last remark that Einstein's paper that they write, that you may say that, okay, you are not doing both position measurement and momentum measurement simultaneously on one, and hence we cannot say this as a simultaneous reality. But then they are saying, okay, I'm not doing this simultaneously, but anyway, second system should not know what I am doing here. Okay, so there is no reason to believe that second system is in constant touch with the first system. The interaction is over and it has gone. So whether I choose momentum here or position here, there is no reason to believe that the second system is in knowledge of this, or there is an information about what I do at the system one. And hence, with this reason, if I am able to come to a conclusion that there is a reality for both position and momentum, that is still a valid enough reason to say that the wave function description is not complete. Okay, so that is the argument.
Hello,
Thanks.
sir.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Sir, I have like 3 to 4 confusions.
Yeah.
I'll try to tell it in small steps from the beginning. So like in the beginning, you said, like it is written that system 1 and system 2, that we know the wave functions of system 1 and system 2 at less than t equal to 0. Okay, so at that time we can write the eigenfunction of system 1 and system 2 separately. Suppose for system 1 we have psi 1 of x1, and system 2 we have psi 2 of x2. We can write them separately, right?
That is one particular initial state. So
Yes,
whether that initial state is the initial state, we do not know, but that is one of the initial states.
yes, sir. So but when they start interacting, like before they interacting, we can write the combine as psi 1 of x1 into psi 2 of x2. At that time, before interaction, we can write like that, the combined wave function.
Correct.
But as they add t greater than 0, at that time, after that time, we cannot write it separately. So after that time, we have to write in a single manner, and we cannot separate it we cannot separate it and like okay, psi 1 of x1 and psi 2 of x2, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now after t greater than capital T, like the interaction has occurred, and after that, although the systems are like at different region, although they are not interacting, now also we cannot write the wave function of them separately. So we are writing that as a psi of x1 comma x2 by given by that equation 7.
Correct.
Okay. Now in this equation 7, we are trying to express that in terms of eigenfunction of the system 1.
Correct.
Where psi n of x2 is the coefficient of
Correct.
un of x1. So we can say that we can take mod of psi n square, sin of x2 square, that will give us the probability for being in the state un of x1.
Correct.
And in the same page, we are also getting that psi n of x2 is the eigenfunction of the second system.
Correct. We don't know eigenfunction, wave function.
We do, eigenfunction or wave function?
We don't know if it may be an eigenfunction of some operator, but right now we have not chosen any operator for system 2.
Okay. Sir, here it is written after equation 7, like suppose now that the quantity A is measured and it is found that it is the value AK, it is then concluded that after the measurement, the first system is left in the state given by the wave function uk of x1, and the second system is left in the state given by the wave function psi k of x2.
Correct.
So that means that psi k of x2 should be eigenfunction of the second system.
No, what I'm trying to say is that see, it is like if you go back to our previous example of some Cn into psi n, I told you that if you are making a measurement and getting some AK, then you will get Ck into Uk of x, correct?
Yes, sir.
But that Ck is what is that Ck? Their Ck is basically meaningless because you are anyway going to normalize it again.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that only tells you what is the probability of getting that result, correct?
Yes, sir.
So, but here, since this psi k depends on the variables of the second system, this psi k has meaning, and it has a meaning that it is a wave function of the second system. Okay, but at this point we do not know whether it is a wave function of any operator or the same operator, for example, of the second system.
Okay,
but in the example that we discussed later, if it is an eigenfunction of momentum, then the collapsed state is also an eigenfunction of the momentum with a different value of the momentum.
Yes, yes. So right now we do not know, but it can be eigenfunction of the second system also.
Correct. See, we cannot say eigenfunction of a system. We have to always say eigenfunction of an operator of the system. No.
Right.
So we have to find out an operator. So if I am finding A here, will that be an eigenfunction of A of the second system? That is the question. Okay. So in general, it need not be. But as I told you, we can always define an operator for which it will be an eigenfunction.
Yes, sir. Sir, so suppose if I say that okay, this psi n of x2 is a wave function of the wave function. If I say, then from this equation 7, we are already getting that okay, system 1 and system 2 are somehow connected, and their wave function cannot be separated.
Correct.
Is this itself defined entanglement?
Yeah, that is whatever we are discussing. This kind of a whatever, usually this is called as EPR paradox. No, this is like a paradox. If quantum mechanics is complete, then this is a paradox. Okay.
Yes,
so this paradox is because of this entanglement, even though in this paper they did not say. Okay. So when these two systems were interacting, there were certain the interaction has changed its state in such a way that now it is not possible to separate them. You cannot talk about one system without referring to the other system.
Yes, sir. So it is like they were trying to disprove something. Okay, but entanglement was always there in quantum mechanics.
Always there means, are you asking historically whether before Einstein was it known?
In quantum theory,
Huh.
in the beginning we didn't know about it, but it was already there. But as they were trying to disprove it, they were trying to prove that okay, quantum mechanics is not complete. So it was found that okay, it was already that quantum entanglement was already there.
Correct.
We did not.
So, in fact, the quantum entanglement as a principle was discovered in this attempt to show that quantum mechanics is incomplete.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So one more, sir.
Yeah.
When you are writing this equation 9,
Hmm.
suppose I want to write the equation.
Hmm.
So how they're taking it, like in the beginning, like how they can write it in this manner: x1 minus x2 plus x0 into p dp.
See, you want to write a momentum eigenstate, no?
Yes, sir.
So you can write down the momentum eigenstate. See, suppose I have a single variable. I want to write momentum eigenstate. So I will write like this, no? Ikx.
Yes, sir.
Of course, in this case, k is momentum by h bar. Okay. So they are using 2 pi t by h. Okay, this language they are using, but it is e power ikx, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This is the momentum eigenstate. That is, I will say psi p of x. Now, suppose I have psi p of x1 comma x2. Okay, so I have to actually say psi p1 p2 of x1 comma x2. Then I will say that e to the power I k1 into x1 plus k2 into x2. Suppose I write like this. Okay, I write like this. Then what happens? The first system will have a momentum of h bar k1. The second system will have a momentum of h bar k2. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Correct. But now, if I write it something like that, e to the power ik, yeah. So suppose if I write that e to the power ik of x1 minus x2. Suppose if I write like this, then what happens? The first system has got a momentum k, and the second system has got a momentum minus k. I mean h bar kn. So first system has got a momentum h bar k, second system has got the momentum minus h bar k. Correct? There is a relation here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Correct? So this is such that you have a total. So they are actually designing this wave function such that such a correlation is there.
Yes, sir. Like a particle can disintegrate and it go to two different two opposite direction, like that we can take.
Exactly. Imagine that electron and positron are created from photons and they go in different directions. Okay, so they will have their positions, momentum in opposite direction. Position also will be correlated because initially they are at origin.
Yes, sir.
So if one is going in x direction, other will go in minus x direction, like that. So that is the kind of thing they have in mind.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. And this is also clear, sir. And so one last thing. This is the I didn't understood the meaning at there. It is written. I'll tell you the page number 780, and it is the second column and the first paragraph. It is saying that in accordance with our criterion of reality, in the first case, we must consider the quantity P as being an element of reality. In the second case, the quantity Q is an element of reality. But as we have seen, both wave functions psi k and phi r belong to the same reality. So what does this mean? Like belong to the same reality?
Belongs to the same reality. Why they are saying they belong to the same reality? Because whatever is the reality of the second system will not be changed because of whatever you do at the first system.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so by measuring A of the first system, you are saying phi k is the wave function of the second system. By measuring B on the first system, you are saying phi r is the wave function of the second system. The reality of the second system, if and whatever exists, will be same independent of what you do it here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that is the that is the point, and this is very important because we will come back to this point again and again and again. For the last 90 years, people are coming back to this point again and again.
So for the same reality, we are assigning two different states, and that's why we're saying, okay, quantum mechanics is incomplete.
These two different states can so they are arguing this little more than that. They are saying these two different states can be eigenstates of two non-commuting operators,
Yes, sir.
in which case simultaneous reality can be said to exist for two non-commuting operators. Because if you know the state is an eigenfunction of some operator, there is a reality of that property, right?
Yes, sir.
So now if I consider these two states to be eigenfunctions of two non-commuting operators, then that means that simultaneous reality is there for two non-commuting operators.
Yes, sir. But that is, sir, that is false. So,
What
but
is false?
you know that by taking this example, we are getting that okay, simultaneous realities can exist. But the second statement they have given, like this one is like contradicting the second statement.
Second statement, simultaneous reality is not there.
Yes, sir.
Ah,
Yes, sir.
right. So anyway, please think about it, and so I will try to post the original reply that Niels Bohr has given to this this paper. I think that as Niels Bohr himself said that this is one of the papers which has made him really. I mean, he was thinking that everything was settled and quantum mechanics was completely understood by everybody. But this objection has actually, in some sense, really shook him. And then I think he is supposed to have thought over it several days, maybe a week or 10 days, and he wrote a reply to this. And generally, people believe that that reply has settled the issue. But if it has settled the issue, I think people would not have thought about this for last 90 years. But anyway, I don't want to discuss Bohr's reply here. But I will post the paper in classroom. But I want one of you or two of you, whoever is interested, can read it and present it sometime. Okay, so you can present it. I mean, the summary of it. In fact, Bohr's paper is longer paper than this paper, but you can at least present the essential idea of what Bohr is telling. Of course, he will talk about the main issue is, of course, he talks about complementarity in that paper. But I will post it in classroom. So in my next class, I will try to present a paper. I mean, I will not present any other paper in this detail, but I will try to show you how David Bohm had simplified this EPR paradox by using spin variables, and that has led to this development of hidden variables. So we will make a case for these hidden variables. We will try to discuss how. So as Einstein said towards the end, a more detailed theory may be possible. So that he had in mind this hidden variable theory. So we will talk for a few classes about this hidden variable theories and whether hidden variable theory is a solution to the problems that we are facing with this quantum mechanics. So I will I will cover this in the next class.
Okay, sir. Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, can you also post that Google Meet link in the classwork section of the Google Classroom? So that will be visible in mobile devices also.
Oh, okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.